Picture this. You're on the sidewalk. Red and blue lights are flashing everywhere, tensions are incredibly high, and your instinct kicks in. You pull out your phone, hit that red record button, and suddenly, an officer turns, points directly at you, and says, "Hey, put the phone away." What do you do in that exact split second? Well, welcome to This Explainer. I'm here as your legal expert to walk you through the recording rights blueprint for the United States. We're going to break down all the complexities, look directly at the rules of engagement, and arm you with some crystal clear legal knowledge so you know exactly where you stand.
So let's confront that exact moment head on. You start recording the police and they demand that you stop. Can they actually do that? Look, because people tend to panic in this moment, there are some pretty widespread myths out there. A lot of citizens just immediately fold, assuming the badge automatically overrides their camera. And then, others go the opposite route. They aggressively escalate, acting like their camera is some kind of invincible shield. The reality? Your right to record is absolutely protected by the First Amendment, but, and this is a big but, it is not absolute. Understanding your baseline rights and exactly where the boundaries of those rights are is literally what separates a legally protected citizen from someone who accidentally commits a crime.
Okay, let's dive into Section 1, the right to record, understanding the modern landscape. We are living in an era where literally everyone has a high-definition camera right in their pocket. Documenting our surroundings, it's just become second nature to us. Imagine a traffic stop happening right across the street from you. Reaching for your smartphone to document that encounter is a total reflex, right? But here is the fascinating and honestly kind of alarming part. While hitting that record button is a universally understood action, public knowledge of the actual legal boundaries surrounding it is surprisingly low. People know exactly how to start the timer, for sure, but they rarely know their exact rights or the limits of those rights once that little red timer starts ticking. Which brings us to Section 2, public versus private spaces, where you are matters. Because spoiler alert, your rights are not universally identical everywhere you go. Your physical location entirely dictates the level of legal protection you have. For example, let's say you're standing on a public sidewalk observing an arrest. In that traditional public forum, your right to record is at its absolute strongest. But let's imagine that exact same arrest moves inside a privately owned grocery store, and you just follow them right in with your camera still rolling. The legal blueprint shifts the literal second you cross that invisible threshold. In a private business, the property owner or the manager has the legal authority to demand you stop recording or ask you to leave the premises. If you refuse, well, you are no longer a protected observer, you are trespassing. So you absolutely must always be acutely aware of your environment. Let's move on to Section 3, the interference boundary, crossing the legal line. So the crucial point here is that even if you are in a completely public space, there's a hard, definitive line where your legal protections effectively vanish. And that is the interference boundary. Recording does not mean interfering physically or blocking officers during their duties. This is where so many well-meaning citizens misunderstand their rights. Having a camera in your hand does not give you VIP access to step right into the middle of an active police investigation. If you step between an officer and a suspect, if you stand so close that you're blocking their walking path, or if you physically touch a police barrier, you have crossed the legal line. That physical obstruction instantly turns a perfectly lawful recording into a criminal obstruction charge. Let me be super clear. Any physical interference completely invalidates your right to record.
All right, Section 4, conduct and safe distance, a blueprint for behavior.
Knowing where the legal line is drawn is really only half the battle. How you actually conduct yourself is what keeps you safe. First up, don't escalate emotionally. Second, stay respectful. Third, stay calm. Keeping a level head is hands down your best legal defense. If an officer does address you, having specific verbal cues ready is a total game changer. You want to calmly state, "Officer, I am not interfering, I'm just exercising my right to observe." Fourth, keep a safe distance. A great rule of thumb here is staying at least 10 to 15 feet away. Picture about the length of a standard car, firmly outside the immediate zone of the encounter. Now let's quickly debunk the top 3 myths about the delete button, just in case an officer demands you erase your footage. Myth number 1. Police can force you to delete footage on the spot without a warrant. No way, they absolutely cannot. Myth 2. They can confiscate your phone permanently just for recording. False. They generally need a warrant to search the contents of your device. And myth 3. Deleting the footage yourself will just make the tension go away. Actually, scratch that. Doing that destroys your own evidence. Never, ever delete your footage in the heat of the moment. Just remain calm, respectful, and at that safe 10 to 15-foot distance.
Now for Section 5, local laws and circumstances, the vital caveat.
We've been discussing the broad legal framework here, but you really have to remember that the United States is basically a giant patchwork quilt of local laws. The rules can and absolutely do vary depending on your exact location and the specific circumstances. For instance, audio recording laws drastically change depending on what state you're in. Some states operate under what's called one-party consent, meaning you can record audio of a conversation as long as you are present and you consent to it. But on the flip side, other states are strict two-party or all-party consent states where secretly recording audio without everyone's permission can actually violate wiretapping laws. So the context of the situation and the specific state or city you are standing in always plays a massive part in how the law is actually applied to you.
So, what does this all mean for us? Are you informed enough to protect your rights? Because let's be real, the time to learn the law isn't when the handcuffs are coming out. It is right now. Understanding your rights isn't just about winning an argument on the street. It's the very thing that empowers you to stay calm, maintain that safe distance, and remain a smart, informed citizen during a highly stressful situation. Remember, staying calm, keeping your distance, and knowing their local rules is your absolute best defense out there. Simple legal knowledge is just incredibly powerful. If you found this legal explainer empowering and helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe so we can keep arming you with clear, actionable legal knowledge. Thanks so much for learning with me today.